Welcome to the Las Vegas Review-Journal Judicial Primary Debates. Here's your host, Victor Jakes.
Hello, I'm Victor Jakes. Welcome to the Las Vegas Review-Journal's Nevada Judicial Debate Series. Today's debate is between the three candidates running for Clark County Family Court Department U. They are Marilyn Caston, Braulio Gonzalez, and Dawn Throne. This is a new seat, so there isn't an incumbent. Before we begin, a word on the format. We are conducting this debate over Zoom in response to the coronavirus outbreak, and we urge everyone to take precautions to keep each other safe and healthy. We'll start by giving each candidate a 1-minute opening statement. Marilyn, go ahead.
Thank you, Victor. First, I'd like to thank the Review-Journal for continuing to host this. It's not easy in this quarantine with all the technical wizardry that goes into making this happen. We appreciate the avenue to speak to the general public. I am running for Judge in Department U. This is one of the new departments that was being created. I'm a local girl. I went to elementary school, high school, UNLV, and Boyd School of Law. I care very deeply about this community. I grew up here. I was married here, divorced here, remarried here, and I had all my 3 children here. I care very much about what happens to our family court. We are in the sort of crisis that we're going to have at least 10 new judges with 6 seats and 4 judges retiring. And I think it's really important that we elect people to this position that have empathy, dignity, and compassion. It's not just practical and professional experience, but we also need people that care what happens to these families in Las Vegas after they exit the courtroom. And I do, and I think I would be great as the judge.
Thank you, Marilyn. Bill, 1 minute.
Victor, I appreciate this opportunity to speak to the community here. I also like to thank the Review-Journal. It's so difficult many times for people to be informed about the judicial races, and I think this is a great opportunity for the people to hear about us. I've lived here in Nevada for 23 years with my wife, Anna Maria. We've been happily married for 33 years, and we have 4 wonderful children that have grown up here in the state of Nevada. Nevada has become our wonderful home. I was honored and had the privilege of serving as family court judge in Department F for almost 6 years. I was appointed to that position by Governor Gibbons. I went through a vetting process by the Judicial Selection Committee here in Nevada. I was one of the top candidates for the appointment and by the selection committee. I had been serving in this capacity. Again, it was 6 years. I've had many opportunities to provide.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Dawn, go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you all for this opportunity, and thank you to everyone who is tuning in. It is difficult for us, especially in this time of quarantine, basically, to get our message out there. Normally, we'd be able to be out there meeting all the voters in person and talking about why we feel we're the most qualified candidate. What you are looking for in a family court judge is 4 things: experience, knowledge, fairness, and compassion. As far as experience, I've been representing clients in every area of family law for 23 years now. I have owned my own business for the last 12 years with successful law practice. I'm a mother. My daughter was born here and has grown up here. I've also helped raise stepchildren here. I've been divorced, so I understand what's going there. I'm one of 48 family law specialists in the state of Nevada as far as knowledge. Fairness, I have known for being honest and fair and very direct, and I care about what happens to these families and their children in family court. You're in a crisis.
Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move right to questions. Marilyn, you'll get the first crack at this. Divorces are a big part of family court and frequently involve emotional disputes. What makes you the person most suited to resolve these conflicts in as amicable a manner as possible?
I've also been divorced. I've been through the system, and I've co-parented with an ex to raise our daughter. She just graduated from high school last year and started college this year. And I was able to successfully do that because I do have compassion, empathy, and dignity. We didn't bring a lot into the courtroom as far as our personal debacle, so we kept it outside of the courtroom, and we worked together to raise a child. And I have that practical knowledge and that dignity for everyone that comes before me. I would have fairness, and I would have empathy for what they went through because I've been through it. So it's not something that I'm asking them to do anything that I haven't done myself. I have a lot of practical knowledge and tips of how I got through that process, how I spent Christmases away from my daughter when it wasn't my year. So I have tips to give to the litigants on how to deal with that. And I'll never take for granted what they're going through, because I have been through it myself, and it is extremely painful. It is emotionally volatile, and I have the utmost respect for what they're going through, and I'll give them a fair shake when they're in front of me. I will never be dismissive or rude or disrespectful.
Thank you, Marilyn. Bill, same question to you. How would you work to resolve divorce disputes amicably?
Well, I had 6 years of doing that in the courtroom. As you know, it's very stressful financially, emotionally being in court. And I created an atmosphere in the courtroom where people were able to come in. I helped them resolve their disputes in an amicable way. I had 2 rooms outside of my courtroom where a lot of times the attorneys would come in. I would allow them to, spend time on the case, make sure that everybody's voice was heard, that everybody was treated fairly. And as a result of the way I represented or I handled the cases in the courtroom, my caseload, my heavy caseload in 2010 was 730 cases. By 2014, it was only 410 cases, because I was able to get people resolved. The most important thing as a judge is to help people make these important decisions for themselves.
Thank you, Bill. Dawn, same question to you. How would you approach it when a couple is in front of you working through a divorce?
Well, first of all, it's knowledge and experience to understand what the issues are in a case, be able to look at it and say, okay, these are the issues. First of all, it's custody. You got to get them the case triaged and get them the tools they need to help settle their own case if they can. First of all is getting them to mediation on their custody matters. Second is to find out on the financial issues, what are the major issues? Give them the opportunity to settlement conferences. Having a knowledge of the law and being consistent in your rulings will also give everyone the tools and knowledge to know what's going to happen so they can settle their cases. Being a consistent, decisive judge, you're there to make a ruling. Getting them a ruling and getting them moving on with their life is in the best interest of their family.
Thank you, Dawn. And our judicial primary debates will continue in a moment.
Alexa, play my flash briefing.
Here's what's new in today's news.
Stay in the loop of the latest information in the Las Vegas Valley with the Las Vegas Review-Journal Flash Briefing. Every day, we will provide you with everything you need to know in news, business, weather, entertainment, and sports. Go to the Alexa app and search LVRJ News Briefing. Then say, Alexa, play my flash briefing to hear 3 minutes of the most important information in Las Vegas.
The Vegas Nation podcast is your source for all of your Las Vegas Raiders news. Subscribe and get fast takes and smart coverage. Download the Vegas Nation app and check out vegasnation.com to stay up to date with your Las Vegas Raiders.
You're watching the judicial primary debate for Family Court Department U. It's part of an ongoing series of debates produced by the Las Vegas Review-Journal to inform local voters about these races. Bill, this question is going to go to you. You previously served, as you mentioned, as a family court judge. Voters didn't retain you in 2014. Why should they give you another chance now?
Well, Victor, a lot of the voters don't have an opportunity like they have today to listen to the candidates and know what we're about. They don't know that I went through a vetting process with the Judicial Selection Committee. They don't know that I would often be at the courthouse at 6 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes I would be out there late in the evening working on cases to help families in our community. Those are a lot of things that it's helpful to have this today where they can hear about the judges and your integrity and your desire to help families in our community. That's one thing that I think is vitally important, is that families can feel comfortable in the courtroom, and then they can feel that there's a judge that they can trust, a judge who's going to treat them fairly, and a judge who's going to make sure that everybody has their day in court and their opportunity, because for these families, this is their most important day in court. For judges and attorneys, we're here all the time, but for family, that person, they need to feel that they were able to resolve their matter in the best way possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Dawn, on your website, you write that you love, quote, the personal nature of family law cases, end quote. While that's certainly an admirable characteristic in a lawyer, will that sentiment cloud your ability to apply the law fairly?
No, I think that will help me because I care about the individuals. I understand both from a private attorney representing them and as a party in family court, what they're going through, what they're looking for in a judge, and having that empathy and that understanding as well as compassion. I care about if they are in a dispute and you set multiple status checks and you can't make a decision and you have to ask your colleagues what decision you have to make, you're doing a disservice to that family. It's costing them more time, more money, more stress, and it's hurting their children. So I think the personal nature of it is exactly why I would be a good family court judge and being decisive. When they need a decision, you got to give it to them so that they can heal and move on with their lives.
Thank you, Dawn. Marilyn, you started your legal career in 2008, which means both of your opponents have at least a decade more experience than you. Do you think you're well qualified to serve as a judge?
I do. I happen to think that no one can be completely qualified because I hold the office of judge in such high respect that no one can be completely qualified. But what I find interesting is that both my opponents applied for judicial positions either through, as Bill Gonzalez said, being selected or through an election when they had the same level of experience as me or less. So they obviously felt they were qualified at the time, and I do feel I'm qualified now. And I don't think that a judge should measure their chance of success at how many years they put in the legal field. It's something that comes with practical knowledge, with serving the community in many different areas and ways, and coming to the bench with your all, with your 100% commitment to the legal community and to the greater Las Vegas community, to the families that you're going to be dealing with. And it's coming to work wanting to make significant change and to give these families hope that they can heal and move on and that they can be at a better place later through your rulings.
Thank you. This next question will go to all of you. Bill, we'll start with you. Is it more important for a judge to enter the courtroom ready to make a decision, which speeds things along, or be open to persuasion during oral arguments, which can cause a delay in issuing a judgment?
I think the most important thing is when you go into the courtroom on each and every case, you have to be prepared. You have to know the facts of the case. You have to know the law regarding the case. And when you go into the courtroom prepared, the attorneys feel comfortable because they know that you have studied the case and you're going to make a good ruling. But there are many times that there's a lot of disputes as to the facts of the case and as to what the right decision is made for children. You need to be able to have your calendar where you're able to take the time to help parties make those decisions. And the only way you can make a good decision is that you take the time to listen to the parties, to allow them to share their ideas, because again, at the end of the day, it's their children, it's their financial future, and you need to listen to people. And if you don't listen to them, you will never be able to make a decision that will help benefit them.
Thank you, Bill. Dawn, same question for you. Do you see yourself as a judge who's ready to make a decision before things start, or being open to persuasion when the lawyers present arguments?
Well, I have sat as a pro tem in TPO court, and the first thing is preparation. I read all the papers. If they had related cases, I read them. So I wrote notes on what the issues were going to be. And then you have to know what to ask people, because at least 67% of the litigants in family court do not have an attorney. So they don't know what you need to hear on certain financial issues. They don't know how to fill out that financial disclosure form to give you all the information. So you've got to be an active judge, an active listener, and say, okay, tell me more about that. Tell me more why you think that the visitation schedule should be this. Tell me more about what your income is or how your income is reduced. So you've got to do both. You've got to be able to listen, but you've got to be prepared.
Thank you, Dawn. Marilyn, same question to you.
That's a really interesting question, because we're dealing with that right now during the quarantine, where some of the different departments are deciding things on the pleadings, and it really underscores how important a well-written pleading is. And although there are circumstances, as my opponent Dawn just pointed out, where there's no attorney on one side or no attorney on either side, there's pleadings for a reason. We need to have well thought out pleadings that are put before the court, which outline the different issues. When there's a pro se litigant, there's a different standard that we can give them some time to explain themselves factually when they're there in person. But pleadings and the rule of law is there for a reason. We need to have things written down and we're presented with them so that we can make good rulings, consistent rulings, rule-based rulings and thought-based rulings, and not just giving people EADs of time to complain, to go into unrelated issues when they're before the courts and clogging up their dockets. And as practitioners, we see that. We know judges that come prepared, that have everything read, and those that just show up expecting you to fill them in. So I would definitely be one that would rely heavily on the pleadings.
Thank you very much, Marilyn. Stay tuned. This debate will continue right after these messages. Welcome back, and thank you for joining us. You are watching the judicial primary debate for Family Court Department U. Dawn, we'll start with you. What is one deficiency you see in the family court system, and what would you do to fix it if elected?
It's going to be that calendar and being able to get the cases moving and keep them moving. That is why the legislature approved 6 new family court judges. I believe they asked for more, because these are so personal. You've got to do both. You've got to be able to prepare the case. You've got to be able to listen to people in court. So it's always that. And the second deficiency is a society-wise here in Southern Nevada. We don't have enough good mental health providers. People are suffering from mental illness, untreated, undiagnosed. And a lot of the problem cases in family court that keep coming back are from untreated mental health. So if we could get better mental health for everybody, then we'd all be healthier mentally, then we'd have less chronic cases in family court.
Thank you, Dawn. Marilyn, same question. If you're elected, what's something you want to change in the family court system?
You know, we see a lot of judicial burnout where we've got people on the bench that are tired and that are not actively listening when the cases are before them to both the litigants and to their attorneys. And that's something that I care very deeply about. And we have evolving technology where we have new concerns today that we didn't have before. And you see judges that aren't willing to learn and to grow on the bench to address these different issues. And that's something that I definitely am concerned about and want to bring to the table, is that I want to listen and to grow with these different cases over time and to really address the issues that are in front of me instead of allowing them to clog up my calendar and to come back over and over again. It's something where I want to improve the access to justice as well. I feel like there's a very bad need in Las Vegas. We need to give them knowledge about the resources that are available to them to get an attorney, to get a free attorney, to get resources, to get trial preparation for free, that kind of thing. I want to make sure everyone has an access to justice.
Thank you, Marilyn. Bill, you've been a judge. What's something you fixed when you were a judge, or something you'd like to if you're reelected?
Well, I think, as Marilyn said, access to justice has always been important, and all the judges really need to work on that. We have a lot of litigants in our community that cannot afford an attorney, and we need to allow them to be able to participate in court. The Nevada Supreme Court, their committee, Access to Justice, have asked that attorneys take one case a year, just one case a year, to help even the playing field. Legal aid services, you can refer people them. They have a once a month a program for litigation and trial where they teach people in court. As a judge, when you're going to set a hearing and it's a pro se litigant, you need to take the time to make sure that they understand the basic information that they need to present witnesses, to present evidence to the court. I think that is very, very important, and that's going to continue to be important. That's something that I did very well when I was on the bench.
Thank you, Bill. Marilyn, we're going to start with you for this question. I've only got 45 seconds for each of you. Would you name a judge on the bench that you think is doing a good job and a characteristic of theirs you would like to emulate? I should clarify, a judge in family court.
Judge Hoskins is very efficient and he's very thorough, and he is a no-nonsense judge that I would definitely try to emulate, where he sticks with the law and the facts that are before him and doesn't dilly-dally.
Thank you very much, Marilyn. Bill, same question to you. Who's someone that you would want to emulate if you were back on the bench?
Judge Duckworth is certainly somebody worthy of emulation. when you look at the review journal, when they do judging the judges, he's always at the top. He's very considerate. He's very kind. He's very fine. He's very fair. And when people come in the courtroom and they go in there, they come out of there thinking that, you know, this is a judge that took the time to help me out on my case. And this is a judge that I would like, you know, other family members to get the luck of being in front of.
Thank you, Bill. Dawn, same question to you.
Well, Bill got to go first, but yes, I agree with him on everything he said regarding Judge Duckworth. A second one would be Judge Linda Marquis. She's very smart and very good at being efficient, and she cares a lot about the children in front of her, and you get that every time. I want people to know that I care about their children, so that's something I'd like to emulate that she does.
Thank you, Dawn. And we'll be back with our final segment in just a moment.
For all your Raiders news, like us on Facebook, download the Vegas Nation app, and go to vegasnation.com.
All your listeners and followers, the best name of any podcast in the world is podcast.
Nobody's ever done it. Nobody's ever faked
Not that we
their
know
death.
of.
No.
When you work with Prince, you got to get used to the fact that he changes musicians like underwear. You know, like
Tom Brady. And Tom Brady, he's a quarterback in the Boston area.
I'm not sure who you're talking about.
Welcome back, and thank you for joining us for our final segment. You are watching the judicial primary debate for Department U. Bill, we're going to start with you. I've got 15 seconds. If you are elected, what do you want your legacy as a judge to be?
I want my legacy as a judge to be that I care about people in our community, that I treated people fairly, that I served in the community. I was on the advisory board for the law school. I was a vice chair of the housing authority for many, many years. So my legacy, I want it not only in the courtroom, but out in the community.
Thank you very much, Bill. Dawn, same thing. How do you want people to remember your time as a judge?
Fair and hardworking. That's what I would like. That I did a good job for the community, fairly put in the time and effort to do this job, that the community's got a good return on their investment.
Thank you, Dawn. Marilyn, same question to you.
I'd like them to remember me as having compassion for all the litigants before me, empathy for all the children involved, and that I treated everyone in my courtroom with dignity.
Thank you, Marilyn. We're going to move to 30-second closing statements. Dawn, we'll start with you.
Thank you very much. To me, the family court judge is the most important elected official in Clark County in terms of the direct impact they can have on your lives. So I would ask everyone to do your research and to look at that. And you're looking for somebody with both personal and professional experience, knowledge of the law, and also a good sense of fairness and compassion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dawn. Bill, 30 seconds.
Very good. Thank you, Victor. Family court just isn't about divorce and custody cases and child support. It's also about children in the juvenile delinquency system. I represented over 2,000 children, and I've been fortunate to be endorsed by the Juvenile Justice Probation Officers Association because of my work with children. I also work with, I'm a court-appointed attorney for children or for parents who are in the abuse and neglect court. The 3 of the brand new seats will be abuse and neglect court, and I've been down there for 4 years. And if I'm fortunate to be elected on the bench by our voters again, then I will look to serve in that capacity as an abuse and neglect judge.
Thank you, Bill. Marilyn, you get the last word.
People of Las Vegas, stay home, stay safe, wash your hands, but don't forget to do your civic duty. We do have a primary coming up. It's going to be a little bit unorthodox with a mail-in ballot, but don't forget to do your civic duty and vote. It does matter, and as my opponent Dawn Throne pointed out, do your research, look into all the candidates in every department, and choose those that you feel are best qualified to serve you, because they do serve you and they're going to impact your life. This is the area of the law that you're most likely to be in our courtrooms, and so pick those that you feel will do justice to the system.
Thank you very much, Marilyn. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you for watching this edition of Nevada Judicial Debates. Remember, you can find this program and more information on all the judicial races at reviewjournal.com. We'll see you next time.